So, as I said, we have with us, we are honored to have with us today Si Hatim Shraibi, the CEO of Spire Advisory Group, based in Silicon Valley, a passionate and a seasoned entrepreneur with an extensive experience in strategic marketing and the business development of high impact innovations. Very pleased to have you with us today, Si Hatim. I'm Lamia El Basiti, and I'm
مرحبا.
delighted to be your moderator for this exciting session, along with my fantastic team behind the scene. Greeting to them. So today, Si Hatim will be sharing with us practical insights, frameworks, and success stories to help you take your projects to the next level. So before we start, please keep your mic muted during the session and feel free to use the raise your hand feature to ask questions. Of course, there will be a dedicated time for Q&A and interaction toward the end of the session. Now, I'll hand over to Hassim to introduce himself and dive into today's session. The floor is yours, Si Hassim.
Thank you, Lemia. Tabarakallah alaikum. First of all, congratulations on the great initiative with Startup Morocco and all the great work you're doing. And
Thank you.
also delighted to be here. And thank you for the invitation. Humbled to be on this platform and to engage with very exciting Moroccan entrepreneurs and wishing them, inshallah, the very best of success.
Inshallah.
So my name is Hatim Sharaibi. I was born in Rabat and grew up in Casablanca, and obviously lived in Morocco till after high school, and went to university first in Europe and then in the US. I'm just giving a quick context for you to understand.
Yeah.
So lived in Spain for a while, then I went and did my undergrad in San Francisco. Worked for a couple of years in banking, and then went and did my MBA at McGill University in
Mm.
Montreal. I also did a program in Milan, in Italy, and then went back to the Bay Area. And I've been back in the Silicon Valley, so in a city called Palo Alto, very close to San Francisco.
Okay.
Half an hour, yeah,
So
half
please
an
keep
hour
your
south of
mic.
San Francisco. Yeah, exactly. Some people I think forget and keep their mics on.
Yeah.
So in a city called Palo Alto, very close to San Francisco, and I worked a lot in medical devices for a while, and I have started and co-founded and managed an accelerator in the Bay Area for the last 10 years. So, and a lot of the work we do is obviously around innovation. We work like upstream. We work with a lot of companies and startups from outside the US, a
Mhm.
lot from Canada and Taiwan. And the idea is to expose them to the Bay Area ecosystem. So when Lamia asked me to present this, I was delighted to share some of my learnings, my humble opinion on things that I think we need to see from startups in Morocco to be able to go from ideation. Basically, you have a great idea and you want to the end goal obviously is to have a company with a product that's in market that you commercialize. But obviously it's a very wide topic that we can't cover in an hour,
Yeah.
but I will give you some pointers on my experience. And after that, obviously, like I told Lemia, I'm more than happy to share my information and engage with you guys in the future whenever you need to connect and help you whenever I can, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Thank you.
so so that's kind of the introduction. So I have a few slides if you'd like,
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
and
Please share
I would
them.
love to
Mhm.
make this as interactive as possible, because the bottom line for me is for the people in the audience, the entrepreneurs, to ask as many questions and and
Yeah.
uh, and and um, so that, it's as constructive for them. I would love to obviously
Sure.
say a few things, but I want them to get what they need from this session.
Yeah.
So, uh, okay. Hmm.
So please use the raise your hand feature to ask question, so we can get the order of the people who are asking questions.
Okay. So basically, again, it's very few slides, and as I mentioned earlier, the topic uh, of entrepreneurship, because basically the title turning innovation discovery into commercial products, as I said, is a very wide topic. It's
Mm,
basically covering um, the whole lifetime of a startup, from when you decide to start it all the way to which may take a very long time. And you
yeah.
as an entrepreneur might be involved in part of that process, and sometimes not all the process. Once you
Yeah.
start raising funding, your company can get acquired before you're commercial, or you can scale when you're, with a partner. So there's a lot of different options on that spectrum. What I always tell entrepreneurs anywhere I go, and what I wanted to specify, is that I feel, Spire, what we stand for. And I told Lamia that we're doing more and
Mm,
more work in Morocco and Africa. And I come,
mhm.
by the way, much more often to Morocco, and happy again to meet with you guys when I am in Morocco,
Yeah, of
is
course.
great innovation. So
Mhm,
this is kind of the motto of Spire Advisory. Can come from anywhere in the world. So Tabarakallah fil Maghrib, we have brilliant people who have brilliant ideas,
mhm,
and they're as brilliant, if not even better ideas, that what you find in Silicon Valley. Of that, I am convinced. I
mhm,
am absolutely convinced. The challenge is, and this is for me, if you take anything away from this session, this is what you're going to take, is that in the Silicon Valley versus anywhere in the world, so people in the Silicon Valley are not smarter than anywhere in the world.
mhm,
However, their appetite for risk and their vision is different than anywhere in the world. So people are very ambitious,
mhm,
and in 95% of the time, but because this is the statistic, they're going to fail. So yeah, they're going to fail the same rate as any company that fail anywhere in the world. But the starting point is a very ambitious project, yeah, idea. And that's why I invite you today to think about. When I was at GITEX Africa a few months ago, what I've noticed about Moroccan startups and African startups in general, and I see it also with Kenya, is the vision is not big enough. So if you're going to do something big, you may as well dream big, and have a great idea.
yeah,
So if I leave you with anything today, is obviously you have to do something that you're passionate about, because when you're presenting to an investor, he wants to know that your idea is unique and that you can get to your endpoint. But he also is more likely to invest in someone who's passionate about what they're doing.
mhm.
And that is also listening. So the idea again is, we meet a lot of entrepreneurs in the Silicon Valley, also, by the way, anywhere, who
So
are
before
sometimes,
so before
go
talking
ahead.
about the idea, the most important is having people with passion,
Of
passionate
course.
and ambitious people.
Because great ideas you'll find anywhere. What an investor is going to think when they see an entrepreneur
Mhm,
is when things become tough. Because every startup that I know goes through rough times, and then your mind starts going, "Should I have done this?
mhm,
Maybe it was not a great idea. Maybe I." Sometimes when you're passionate about your end goal, what you're trying to achieve,
mhm,
that ambition, that passion gets you over the hump in difficult times, because there
mhm.
will be difficult times. You will go through times that
For
are
sure.
extremely difficult. But
Mhm,
if you believe in something, if you then they are more likely to follow you on this. I have been a few times in pitches where some of the companies that we work with,
Mhm.
you basically see at the end of the pitch, I speak to an investor and say, "What did you think of the startup?" And they tell you, I love the idea, but I am not convinced the entrepreneur can go through. Because sometimes when you're pitching, they look at the company, at the startup, but they
Mhm.
also try to gauge the character of the person.
Mhm.
How passionate are they? And that has to come through in your pitch as much as your idea. وتبارك الله في
Okay.
المغرب, I will tell you that sometimes when I see young entrepreneurs, and Lamia, we were together at that event,
Yeah.
the climate tech event.
Yeah.
I love the passion that some of our entrepreneurs have, and people underestimate how important it is to have that passion.
Mhm.
An investor invests as much in the idea as in the founder. The founder,
Mhm.
50%, the idea, 50%.
Okay.
If you're missing any of the two 50%, you're in trouble. I
Mhm.
can see an amazing founder that's excited, that's good, but his idea is not scalable. I'm not going to
Mhm.
invest. I will tell him, but I won't invest. Sometimes I'll see a great idea and I see that the entrepreneur doesn't have that drive and that ambition. So you need to have both. You need to have both. And then the other thing that you see a lot in the Silicon Valley that you don't see elsewhere. So I
Mhm.
speak to, how many times I speak to entrepreneurs in the Silicon Valley who tell me, I did three startups and I failed in all three of them,
Mhm.
and now I'm doing my fourth startup. Anywhere in the world, I apologize. I'm in New York, and you're gonna hear sometimes these ambulances and so in anywhere in the world, not just
Mhm.
Morocco,
Mhm.
people will never tell you about the failures they have because they're ashamed of them because we're taught in a lot of the cultures that هذه ما نجحتش فيها بلا ما نهضر عليها غادي يقول in the US, in the Silicon Valley,
Mhm.
the more you've failed, the more you've learned. An investor is more likely to invest in someone who failed two, three times, but obviously not just failed day one, who has gone through and done, than someone who hasn't tried. Why?
Mhm.
Because they think that guy have learned so much. He has learned not what to do
Yeah.
versus someone who's starting he might be great, but he hasn't learned yet. He has to learn. He has to go through this.
Mhm.
And that is basically an important distinction. Obviously, you have to trust yourself. And the other thing that you have to do is give confidence to an investor that you have a strong team.
Mhm.
And when I say by a strong team is that you have all the different components to build a strong company, expertise in different fields. That includes execution, but it also includes advisory. So again, a lot of things that I see in many companies that are successful is people willing to bring on board as much help as possible because it de-risks the opportunity. The other thing I say often is I speak to entrepreneurs in Morocco, and at Jatex I saw quite a few. I met a company, for example, who I had met 5 years ago in Morocco, and I
Mhm.
speak to them, and they're basically great idea, but they're basically at that same spot that were 4 years ago, 5 years ago. المشكله انه احنا في المغرب مش في المغرب in the world outside you don't know what you don't know. You learn through the process. What you have to understand, and that's what I told that entrepreneur because he told me, but I was pivoting, I was saying, if you have 100% of zero, and I'm not very good at math, but this one is basic math. 100% zero is zero. You can have your whole company, startup, and everything. The value, if it's zero, you have 100%. That's
Yeah.
amazing, but it's 100% of zero. Or you can decide to have 50, 40, 50% of something that's worth something. So, 60%, of a company that's worth $200,000 is, whatever it is, right? But if you have 100% of zero, it is zero.
Mm.
So being having the open-mindedness to onboard people. And the best example I had to give is Facebook. If any of you guys saw the movie, the Facebook movie, the guy basically was in Boston. There were a lot of social media platform at the time, and at that time, his was not better than any others, but he was willing to onboard advisors very quickly that could open doors for him and to give them equity quickly. So why? Because you need those strategic connections very, very quickly so that you can raise quickly and you can move quickly. Some other companies didn't do that, and they were in that case scenario of 100%. By the time the company got public, I think Mark Zuckerberg had 52 or 50 of, some number 60%, but the company was a multi-billion dollar company. I mean, that is, I think, a thing that you have to bear. Again, I spoke about all this. It's so much easier to scale a company when you're doing something that you love. It's not the only thing, but don't go into something that you don't enjoy doing because to build a startup is difficult. But if on top of it you have to do it in a space that you don't enjoy, your life is going to be miserable. Remember, this is part of your life, of what you're going to do. You don't want to spend 3, 4, 5 years of your life doing something that you hate, that you're not, that you're just because you think
Yeah,
there's a idea there. You know,
yeah, yeah.
uh, and then the finance is an important thing. Say when you're going to meet an investor, always be aware that these guys have done this day in and day out. They know the numbers. If you're going to go with a pitch and you don't know every single thing about your sector, how much it's going to take to scale, you know, an investor loves someone who has done their homework, who come prepared. You know
Mm-hmm.
exactly any question they'll ask you about your space. They know that you know what you're talking about because when you're able to answer this question, and this is no different than doing an interview for a company. When you go and interview for a company and they tell you, hey, what do you know about this? If they see, even if you're not an expert on the topic, but they see that you've done the work, they're like, that guy, that person is committed to what they're doing. They're professional. They know exactly, if you're doing something in solar panels,
Mm-hmm.
well, you need to know exactly who you're competing with. How much does energy, who buys the solar panels? The more you know, and again there might be variables, new things that come in. هذه ماشي مشكلة يعني. Okay, things change, of course they change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
ولكن what doesn't change is an entrepreneur's commitment in knowing their ecosystem and what they're working in. Tell me if I'm speaking too fast, or if I'm not, and if you want me to slow down. And again, if you want to stop me and ask me questions, I don't know, Lamia, what kind of format it is, but
Yeah,
I'm
that's great. Thank you. We will be waiting till you end the few slides you
okay.
have, and then we'll open the floor for questions.
Very good, very good. ومن you have, of course, I mean, these are things that are more mental than any other things. It's good to be confident, but it's also good not to get, to get kind of overconfident when things are going well. The same way is that you shouldn't feel down when things are not going so well. It's try to stay, to look at the long term and have a long vision. Things, there's going to be good days and bad days. بحال في الحياة زعما ماشي ما كاين تفرق بين start up and what you live in your life. You have good days, you have bad days, you get good news, you have bad news. ولكن you always at the end of the day الحمد لله على كل حال, and you basically say it's the same in my business, is that
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have good days, I'm going to have bad days. And this goes in that same, you when you are meeting someone, an investor or an advisor, you want to show that you know your things, that you have trust in what you can do, that you have that equilibrium, but at the same time don't boast too much, don't be overconfident, and be willing to listen. In any situation, Again, when you're with the investors, there's nothing wrong with asking questions. You know,
Mhm.
like you start having a dialogue and they tell you, hey, you should probably, it's like, what do you suggest for this? You don't have to have all the answers to everything because you don't. You don't have answers to everything. I don't, nobody has. So when you're talking about what you're trying to do, once an investor or an advisor gives you an opening to learn more about something, show that you're willing to learn. Ask more questions. Yeah, and what about this? And then what it tells them is that you have the flexibility to listen and uh, onboard new ideas. And that is extremely important. Again, I've been in many situations with where the person pitching basically wants to teach everyone. No, and then when they ask you, no, I think I'm going to do it less. And sometimes when they see that a person is stubborn, there's
Mhm.
a difference between confidence and stubbornness. They're not going to invest because they're like, if I invest in this company, اش ما يخرج من هذه القضيه دي ديما when I give advice they'll resist. People invest in companies because they want to be going in the same direction. If they feel that there's going to be a lot of back and forth conflicts and stuff, they don't want to spend their energy in coaching a person. They're investing in the company, in the idea, but if they feel that the person is not receptive to
Mhm.
ideas, again, you have your company, you have your idea, مزيان. ولكن if you don't have that willingness to pivot or take on
Take
new
on new
ideas,
ideas.
then
Mhm.
then then they're less receptive, and then they're like, هذه وقعت لي بزاف د المرات. I mean, I'm with the startup that I coach and everything.
Mhm.
At the end, I ask the investor, what did you think? تقول لي idea is amazing. يمكن المشكله داك السيد هذاك انا ما جاب لي ما غاديش غادي نهضر معاه ما غادي وما فيا ما نصدع راسي. Because the
So,
problem is if remember that an investor every day they have 20, 30, 40 companies that speak to him. So he
mhm.
has choices, you know. So he will go with the one that is easier,
Flexible.
yeah, where he'll have someone who can listen,
Mhm.
and again, listen doesn't mean that you're not the CEO, that you're not driving your company, but that you're willing to pivot, you're willing to take advice and things like this, you know.
Okay.
Uh, so the other thing that is extremely important, and I see a lot of businesses in Morocco that have a lot of potential. Why? Because they have a solution. A lot of them were in consulting, and they have a solution
Mhm.
that they want to basically scale. The idea there, why is this beautiful? Because sometimes when you go and pitch these ideas, you already have voice of the customer. You already have, you've worked on solution, you've addressed the problem. For an investor, this makes a lot more sense than investing in a new concept. New concept may be great, ماشي مشكلة. Sometimes the advantage of someone who's working in some consulting role and who has developed a solution for a customer,
Mhm.
they know what the clients are looking for, and that is huge, because it's and if you don't have a solution that a customer wants, right, it costs nothing. And so when you're working on an idea, as you're talking to investor, go talk to potential customer, ask them what is it that they need, what's their pain point, so that you know that your solution embed. Because after that, even in the pitch, when you're actually pitching to people, you can say,
Mhm.
yeah, I spoke to this customer, and they say that they would use this solution because this is how it's going to help them in their day to day. This is how much they're going to save. Every data point that you have helps the cause.
Mhm.
Any traction that you have in the market before you get the investment is another point that can convince that investor, because they're like, hey, we know there's a market for that.
Yeah, there is a market, yeah. But this is the first very important point to go through the market and do the exercise of market discovery to learn from the potential customers. So the solution will be accurate to their needs and will fit the market better. Yeah.
That, and on top of it, what's the alternative today? So there's nothing worse than going into a pitch
Mm-hmm.
where you're asked about your competitive landscape. And it happens to me. Like people say, no, no, we don't have competitors.
Yeah.
It takes 5 minutes for that investor to go and check, or sometimes they know already because it's their space. But then, once they know that there is competitors, then you lost credibility
Mm-hmm.
right away. Right away, they're like, okay, that person did not bother to go do their homework,
Mm-hmm.
and if they didn't do their homework for this, they want for the future. Once I invest in the company, how do I have confidence that they're going to be very thorough in their work? You have to be super thorough. And those things again don't cost so much to be
Mm-hmm.
out there understanding exactly what your market is, who's playing in your market, and what are they doing, and what's the market, the total addressable market. What's the size? What do the customers pay for this? What are they willing to pay for this? All these things are things that you can get today, nowadays, with the internet. You can get very easily,
Yeah.
and it's okay if you miss out on one or two that you're not aware of when the person asks you.
Mm-hmm.
ولكن if you haven't done any of that work, they look at you see that ماشي معقول. You have to have shown that you've put hours on this idea and startup
Mm-hmm.
before you meet with the investor. You're asking them
Mm-hmm.
for the money, they need to know that you've worked. And when you're asking them for money, by the way, you're asking them for money at a certain valuation.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to prove that there is value that went into the company beforehand. And some shit and investor will say that I need to do this. I need 300K, by the way, or $200,000 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So look at what valuation. تعطيني valuation. They have to have the confidence that there is work that has been done that today at time zero, that company has that value, that there's a lot of work there. If you haven't done your homework, then where's the value?
Yeah.
And then you give them, so that bed, when you give the amount that you need,
Mm-hmm.
the more precise in your deck you are about use of funds, the better. هذيك هي القضيه ديال the slides قبل تيقول لك finance.
Mm-hmm.
We start with embrace finance من الاول. انت you're asking for money, they have to know where their money is going.
Yeah.
So if you're asking for money and you're not very detailed on the use of funds, then they're like, this guy is not serious
Mm-hmm.
because they want to know where their money is going.
Yeah. Okay.
So I won't be too much longer. Bad, I mean, you look at the company, the things that I'm saying are very basic. And I'm not giving you some concepts. These are things that
Yeah.
are basic, but you
Mm-hmm.
would be surprised at how many people go into pitches and not having that information.
Yeah.
But you have the pain point, and say you have an idea, and I've noticed this. This is where the finance comes again. And say
Mm-hmm.
this is the problem I'm solving. These are the competitors. This is how much market I'm trying to address. What is the problem that I see sometimes with startups that are not in the Bay Area? And so this is not just Morocco, anywhere. وشفنا هذه حتى في in the event that we were لمياء
Mm-hmm.
ديال climate tech.
Mm-hmm.
Is a lot of startups in Morocco tell you how they're going to solve a Moroccan problem. مزيان. Solving the Moroccan ما كاين مشكل.
Mm-hmm.
ولكن when you go all the
Okay.
way to the end, hands
Yeah.
and the product and everything, what's the total addressable market?
Mm-hmm.
40 million people قول 40 مليون ومنها. And this is what's the math that you absolutely have to do backward. هذاك السيد اللي غادي يحط لك 100,000 or 200, what he wants to know, what the bottom line. بغى يعرف الشركه what is the valuation ديال الشركه when the day there's an exit ولا شكون اللي غادي يشريها ولا شنو غادي يوقع ليها وداك الشيء. هو if at the end of the day he thinks that the total revenue that you're going to be making in 4 years is X, if the numbers going back don't make sense to him as an investment, they're not going to invest.
Yeah.
So, and what I'm encouraging a lot of people to do in Morocco,
Mhm.
وتيقول لك there's a glass ceiling. انا تهضر مع شي ناس في المغرب تيقول له علاش هذه بحال هذا السولوشن it's an AI solution. Why don't you go day one talk about the global and how you're going to conquer that. وبزاف مرات تهضر مع شي صاحبي تيقول لي تسحب راسك في الميريكان. تقول له شنو هو الفرق بينك انت وبين الميريكان؟ انت يو هاف شنو هي تسحب راسك في الميريكان؟ اني anyway ما بقاتش ميريكان، ما كايناش ميريكان اليوم.
We
بوست
have an
كوفيد
open world.
the world is global. انتم
Yeah.
راه you're sitting with me دابا تذكروا معايا we're having a conversation. دابا دي 10 سنين كون قلت لكم راه غادي نديروا this meeting تقول لي ما يمكنش. وما كانش يمكن لي بحال دابا كل لمية قالت لي هي I want to do a workshop 10 years ago. واش يمكن
Yeah.
تذاكر معاه فوقاش هاد النهار ما يمكنليش. علاش انت في نيويورك؟ قلت صافي شدات مدام we don't have a meeting.
Yeah.
Today you can build في المغرب a startup that has, by the way, again that's the other comment I make with a lot of Moroccan startups. Look, when you create your startup and you want to address a global problem, always try to use a generic name
Mhm.
that is understandable everywhere. حيت ميت المشكله ملي تعاود شي سميه تتكون مغربيه ولا شي حاجه when you go and pitch to an investor in the US ولا in France تيقول لك هادو راه they're addressing
Their
a
own
Moroccan
market.
problem ولا an
Mhm.
Arab problem. If
Mhm.
you want to be a global startup, choose a name that resonates with everything. واليوم, whether we want it or not, English is the language, the
Mhm.
business language. Try to find a word that has to do with the problematic that you're solving that is global.
Mhm.
It's once you do, and once you have a global website, they don't care if your technical skills are in Morocco. They couldn't care
Mhm.
less. What they want to
Mhm.
know is how good they are at solving the problem, why you're the best positioned at solving the problem, and
Mhm.
that is all that's count.
Okay. So, so
And then,
think,
so
think, think global and act local.
exactly, exactly.
Mhm.
هما دابا ملي تهضر مع investors, the fact that you don't have the resources to scale quickly is not a
Mhm.
problem. That's why you're
Mhm.
approaching them. That's why you want them. But they want you to have the vision and the execution to do it.
Mhm.
هما ما تيقولكش راه شوف وري لي بعدك راه عندك الفلوس باش دير هادشي كله. لا ماشي. تيقول لك انا prove to me that in your vision and your plan of action you're targeting the world. If in your presentation you're telling him this is how I'm going to solve the problem for 40 million people,
Mhm.
تيقول لك ما كاين مشكل. 40 million
Okay.
people, if you are successful من دابا 5 سنين غادي هو الريفينيو ديالك. So moving backward ما يمكنليش انا نعطيك مليون باش تقول لي بانه دابا من دابا 5 سنين الشركه ديالك غادي you're going to generate 5 million. Makes no
Mhm.
sense. It's not. That's why in your thinking من الاول the math has to be there. The math of at the end of the day it's much simpler than people think. It's not complicated.
Mhm.
بحال غادي تحل بيسري.
Mhm.
بيسري غتمشي عند شي واحد تقول له عطيني شحال باش نحل البيسري غادي يقول لك اوكي البيسري شحال غادي يدخل شحال غادي يدير شحال باش هو يفهم بانه من دابا 5 سنين ولا 10 سنين I'm going to do 5x ولا 10x وداك الشيء. So that
Mhm.
makes sense. ولكن if you
Mhm.
ask him for money and you tell him that in 10 years I'm going to do 1x ولا 2x يقول لك it's not a business
Yeah,
that
it's
makes
not.
sense to me.
Yeah, it's not
It's a numbers
interesting.
game.
Yeah. Thank you. So, great insights, Hatim. Thank you very much. I think we can open the floor for questions while
Sounds good.
continuing the discussion. So please feel free to ask your question using and share your thoughts on what we have covered so far. Yeah, we start with Yahya Hakimi.
Assalamu alaikum.
Like
عليكم
it.
السلام.
Thank you very much for the talk and the insight into all of this. And thank you, Lemmy, again for very nice to see you and hear
Okay.
from you throughout this last few days. Um, my main question. So my background is in treating heart disease, and I've never lived in Morocco. I was born away from Morocco, but in the last 5 years since I started practicing,
In
I,
Germany.
I sorry.
In Germany.
No, in the UK.
Ah,
Okay.
okay, okay. Because I
Yes.
sensed a German accent when you speak English. Maybe I
Ah,
was wrong. Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah. So for me, since seeing the problems that we are facing within the National Health Service in the UK, I started to travel to Morocco, and I saw a huge kind of gap between the delivery of healthcare and the health of the population in general. And so this has been one of, I mean, for the last 4 years, I've been trying to find a way to tap into this sector. And I guess it's amazing to hear from you and your experience, because this is something that you've had, worked with medical device companies, and a lot of them have new products and new technology, and they need to bring it into market. And that journey is very interesting. But I mean, from your thoughts and being part of the Morocco ecosystem, and for me being quite new to it, um, telemedicine in particular, and offering diagnostic services to the population. From what I can see is that the kingdom and the country and the government is investing a lot of energy into trying to solve this problem and serving underserved communities. As a startup, how do you go about convincing the key players and the key stakeholders, particularly at a governmental level, that what you're trying to introduce, or not even anything, just to get them to listen to your idea? Or is it better to go to the private sector when it comes to the med tech solution? Shukran.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shukran, for your question here. So again, that in itself is probably a topic for an hour discussion or an hour and a half discussion. And here I'm happy to offline speak to you for do a Zoom and we can talk about it because yeah, my experience in the medical device space, so I can give you a lot of feedback. But the short answer is everything you said is great. So, and I'm telling you, as a Moroccan living in the US, if 20 years ago you had told me that Morocco was going to be in the situation that it is in today, I wouldn't believe you. I would say this is impossible. So, tabarakallah, there's a lot of things that have been done.
Yes.
So that we agree on, and there's a lot of incentives, government incentives, subsidies for startups, for companies, for creation. I will tell you not enough, because I always tell you not enough. There is so much to be done that we need more and more. But it's in the right direction. So that's a good thing. المشكلة ديال المغرب is that we're competing with the rest of the world. So every time you see a good incentive, government incentive, what we have to think is that there's a lot of countries that are doing the same thing. So that's the first thing. So I think you can take advantage of a lot of things that are happening in Morocco, UM6P Ventures, and there is also a health innovation hub within UM6P. You can deal with these people. The first thing I would say here is you have to start from the private sector in the sense that you have to show what's unique. So telemedicine startups, by the way, there's hundreds in the world, literally, like it's crazy. I was involved in a digital health initiative in Rwanda with the Gates Foundation, for example, 2, 3 years ago. And we were looking for companies in the telemedicine space in Africa. So with
Mhm.
scouting, there's hundreds of companies, hundreds, like it's crazy. Like it's almost discouraging when you see them to say, why
Mhm.
would I go into this?
Mhm.
However, what I would encourage you here to do is tell me what is unique about what you're doing. Once you have that, once you have a hook, then you can go and say, hey, there is non-dilutive funding from Maghreb, but there's non-diluting funding in Europe and in the US. You know, if you
Mhm.
look at the Gates Foundation, if you look at Prosper Africa in the US, if you look at the European Bank of Development, there's a lot of those places. The European Bank of Development, by the way, I heard, gives 25Ks to Moroccan startups with good ideas. So there is money. So the problem is not the money. The problem is having something, a hook that says, "Oh my God, even though it's not cooked yet, I have something that I found that is super unique." And it can be IP and brevet, or it can be a methodology. And then, rally people around it so that you can, because again, if you're telling me telemedicine like this, I'll tell you, you know what, my friend, good luck. But if you told me you're in cardiology and you found something specific and you have some clinical uh, proof that certain things work, and then you take that as a hook and you build something around it, I would say yes, go for it. And again,
Yeah,
happy to speak offline, and we can talk about it.
inshallah, amazing.
Okay.
Shukran. And again,
Okay.
yeah, you're right about the telemedicine point of view. It was one of the big exclusion criteria for me, but I think, well, not only I think I'm backed by some very strong research to say that this particular idea, not only saves lives, but is able to actually improve the health of the population and inadvertently helping the economy, the economy of the state in general by implementing. So,
And
inshallah,
Yahya,
shukran
again,
bzaf.
no,
Okay.
one last thing, Yahya is not, don't look for something that solves a Moroccan problem. Think of something that solves, the world problem
Think,
or
think
Africa problem.
global. Yeah.
Mm.
And this will present in your solution. So present it
Inshallah.
in a global with a global perspective. Thank you, Yahya. We'll
Shukran.
take Mohammed. Thank you. Mohammed Shakti.
So, so thank you so much for this workshop.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Shribi, for all the information delivered in
Yeah.
this
Okay.
session.
Yeah.
You're
This
very
was
Thank
welcome.
you so much,
discussion.
Lamia.
Yeah. Thank you.
So
Thank you
for
for
my
the
question,
question. Yeah.
thank you so much. So for my question is related to turning scientific discoveries into startup ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So in the regulation term, what if the regulation of our initial of our in the place we are based is not really supporting our idea or the turning the scientific discovery into a business idea. But for example, if we found an idea that is really supported by science, by research, but the regulation of our country doesn't really support it, because especially with some countries, like for example Morocco, the regulation is a little bit a little bit slow in improvement. The second
Mm.
question is related to culture. What if, for example, our startup idea or the business we are working on is not really we have to go through changing some previous ideas of our target market, so the domestic market. So because for example, if I'm living in Morocco, it's a little bit hard to go to US or to UK. So if I want to start in my own country, but there's a culture doesn't really support the innovation. And so those are my questions. The first is about regulation. What if the regulation doesn't support? And the second is about the culture of the population. And thank you
Okay.
so much for all the information. We are very delighted to have you today with us. Thank you so much. Thank you
Thank
so much, Femi.
thank you. Thank you, Sir Mohammed. See, see
So
Hadi.
it is me who's delighted to be with you guys. So what I always say, and I told this to Lamia, and when I'm in those sessions or in the go-to meetings in Morocco, I learned as much from you guys that I actually share in those sessions. So I love it. And by the way, that's something that I love about those events in general, is that you're able
So,
to learn from entrepreneurs, and there's so many great ideas. So the short answer again to you, Mohammed, is that's what we talked about at the end of when I was presenting, is today there are opportunities to present yourself and to connect and to with outside of Morocco. So just I mean, Morocco obviously is important, but you can, if you're working on a device or on a medical or science solution that is important for the whole world, you don't need to worry about Moroccan regulation. Moroccan regulation is for Morocco, and you worry about it when you have to commercialize, and Morocco is one of your target market. So you have to look, and today you have access to information from all over the world. So if it's a problematic that can be solved everywhere, you can talk today from Morocco to the world, and you can pitch from Morocco to the world. So your target VCs investors are not only in Morocco, they're worldwide, and there are ways today to present and to position yourself on a global virtual platform than just Morocco. And I think, again, depending on what the idea is and what you're trying to do, there might be organizations that you want to reach out to. There's a lot of non-diluting funding for diseases. And all of this is available online. So you can find that, and you can I think that's how you have to be thinking. And I'm happy again, Si Mohammed, to talk offline specifically about your idea. You can reach out to me and give me some idea of what you're trying to do. And if there's any connections I can make, مرحبا. I'll be happy to connect you to people.
Thank you so much once again. But the problem is, if we want to experiment the idea, if we want to see if it works, how can we do it
Yeah.
from our home country? Because, for
Sure.
example, for investors, when you meet investors and you ask them to invest in the idea, the majority of time they say that they need a proof of concept that your idea.
Understood. So again, I'm not saying it's not challenging. What happens is that, let's say you have a great idea, yeah, and you've identified some organizations outside of Morocco who would be able to test it. You know that this is when you have at some point to partner with people and say, hey, there could be a research center in the US that say, hey, we would love to try this out. So some things are not implementable, and you may have to do that before you raise funding. You may have to connect with the researcher, with Yahya in the UK, who basically knows people who are working in that specific space. For example, we're not going to go into your detail, but I'm sure that what you're trying to solve is a huge pain point for some non-NGOs, for the world. So these people might introduce you to the people who really will look at your idea. And again, it can't be just an idea. There has to be some clinical research behind it, who are going to say, hey, we'll partner with you to try, to work on a concept, to do animal, depending on what it. So to do that, and that by no means am I suggesting right, it's easy. But you have to basically engage with the world and basically see where people are are going to be responding to this problematic. But again, we can talk offline about it. You're on mute, Lemia.
We will take Nabil Shakir.
Oui, merci beaucoup. Thank you, Mr. Shwaibi, for this intervention, all the advices. I have a question about really fundraising. So quickly, so I can present myself. So I'm Nabil. I'm from Casablanca, and now I'm based in Paris. And I had the chance to work in consulting for big companies in France, and also be a business manager. So working for consulting firms to recruit people. And also I'm a member of the Moroccan Association here in Paris. So we organize the Forum Horizon Maroc, which is like one of the biggest forums in Europe, recruitment forums. And during my process or during my experiences, I had how do we say that? Like identify a problem about recruiting, so that all the recruiters in France or even in many countries in Europe or in the US, they are not really trained, or they don't have like knowledge about the jobs they're recruiting for. For example, if we take just the simple think about IT or development, recruiters, like they're mainly from HR like studies, and they don't understand nothing about technology. And when like recruiting people in tech, they don't understand like the main frameworks or the main development languages. So sometimes they're like only like pushing away some CVs and some resumes just because the guy don't have like a simple language. So here I had the idea to develop an ATS, so application tracking system based on AI that can read all the CV and not like judge the CV from like the words in it, but from the potential of the CV, like really invest in talents. Because today what is important like for companies is to find like good candidates, and they're facing a lot of problems.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So my question was like, there is too many like application tracking systems in the market, and how to attract like investors to invest in the idea if they have like too many solutions in the market. So what is the advice that we can have?
How to be unique.
Yes, exactly.
Present it. Okay, so please try to be very short because
no, I just
time
like
is
to give
going.
some
Yeah.
So it can be understandable.
Okay, that's clear. That's clear. Si Shraibi?
Thank you, Sinabil, for the context. It's great. So the answer is very easy. So, like you said, it's a crowded market. I mean, I work. We advise a company that's doing the same thing in strategy, and what we found is, for example, in strategy, so this company, this startup, is building an AI solution that would complement, a lot of the work that companies like BCG, like EY, Deloitte is doing. So when we started doing the research, we found that these companies, you go to BCG and EY, and I'm sure if you go to recruiting companies, they know that AI is coming and it's going to disrupt. So they are also developing solutions in-house. AI solutions. So it's scary that so you're not so you're going to compete with all these people. So my advice to you is that, remember what I was saying about passionate about the idea. You have to be willing to be all in, strong, and feel, I'm going to do it no matter what. هذه الأولى. ثانيا, you have to have, I would suggest for you, the fact that you have competitors in itself is not necessarily a deterrent, because we looked at strategy. It's a blue ocean market. It's a multi-billion-dollar market. Multi-billion-dollar.
Yeah, it's the same for the recruitment.
Exactly. So you have 6 or 7 competitors. They're coming. So how do you attract investors? The investor wants to know that you are someone who understands that space and what the customers want. So you have that hat. But then they have to have the convictions that you have a technical team. And that's what we did with this company, by the way, in AI. They are a consulting company. So they came to me, they're like, yeah, we have this consulting company. We work with clients. We're a boutique firm. We're not big. But we know the problem is coming, and we know our business is going to be disrupted. So what they didn't have is a strong AI team in the background. So what we did is we went and found a CTO that basically understands this. And this company, by the way, is in Toronto. But guess what? The CTO is in Morocco.
Okay.
And the technical team is in Morocco.
Okay, I understand.
Can you imagine? So these guys, so that means, alhamdulillah, from Maghreb, we have some very strong. Yeah. Exactly. So basically, what you're doing before you go to the investor is you're giving him the conviction that you understand the market really well, you understand your competitors, because the next question they're going to ask you here, like they're going to tell you, there's all the recruiting firms are developing their software. Why you? Why?
Yeah, exactly. That's a good question, because like I know the market. Like to answer you to this question.
Not only you know the market, but you know the different. You know how you're going to be capturing some market share. What that investor is going to know is you really have the capability to develop something solid in the back end, that you can do the work on the front end, and that you have to be realistic, is to capture 5% of the market, because you know people, because strategically, once you have the solution, business development, you know what you're going to do. You have to detail that in the presentation, so they're convinced that you know what you're doing. And then if you tell them, I'm going to capture 2% of the market, but by the way, it's a $300 billion market, then they might invest in you. But you have to have all these things solid, well done, prepared before you go to an investor. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. If you say, "Hey, I have a good idea in recruiting,"
Yeah, of course, yeah.
you have to have as many answers as possible to that investor, with also some. You can almost say, "Yeah, the company that I work with in recruiting is willing to pilot the solution, and we have partners so that they know they have some confidence that when the solution is in the market, that you can compete and you can actually go capture that 2 or 3% that you're talking about, which
Yeah.
represents so much."
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
And
clear.
I have,
Excuse me,
yeah.
Nabil. We
Nabil,
should
I
go
will
to
send
the
you,
others.
I will put my LinkedIn on the thing, and we can also speak offline and
Okay,
answer
very
your
good. Yeah, so
second
we cannot
question.
take too
We
much
can
time.
answer your
Yeah.
second question.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Si Hasim, so we are on the time. I don't know if we can extend for some 10 minutes to take some other
Happy to.
questions or
I'll
50
charge you,
minutes.
Lemia. I'll charge you. You'll have to
Yeah,
invite me for.
yeah, of
بندخل
course.
في موضوع
You,
الدنيا
you
تغطاونا
are
شي
welcome.
حاجة for 10
مرحبا الله
minutes.
يا ودي ضروري. So Sami, and please go straight to the main question and to leave to others to ask questions. Sami?
Yeah, I will try to do my best. So thank you for this session, Hatim. So I'm building an AI automation agency focused on customized AI solution. So this model allows me to gain experience before transitioning into an AI SaaS startup.
Okay,
Okay,
amazing.
the question. Sami? So maybe he lost the
We lost Sami.
connection. Yeah. We'll take Mohammed Finjiro.
Yes, good evening, good afternoon in the US. Thank you for taking the time. I'll go straight to the point. How do you evaluate like a company? I know there's tools online, there's different philosophies, but how do you evaluate a company before sales, before go to market? And I know that in the system in the US and the UK law and all the places in the world, they have like notes for future parts of the company. Like you can negotiate on notes for like investment pre-seed. How would that compare and how would that translate in the market? I know it's a technical question, we can go offline, but I appreciate all the knowledge that you shared so far, and it was very insightful. Thank you.
Un meeting après l'autre. J'essaie de tout faire en même temps, mais des fois, il faut savoir.
Please.
Écoute, l'essentiel هو نبداو l'expérience ونكون à l'aise. Ouais, merci beaucoup. J'espère que ما تطلش عليك. Non, ça va, c'est pas grave. Donc, Anna, je vais t'expliquer un peu.
Who's turning on the
someone is not
mic?
muted.
Yes,
Yeah.
someone.
J'ai fait un peu de sport avec à côté, mais jamais régulièrement. J'ai perdu un peu le rythme. J'ai 37 ans. Je commence un peu à rentrer la quarantaine. Mon corps se relâche. J'ai besoin de reprendre du muscle. J'ai besoin de reprendre en forme. Donc,
That's great information.
Énormément de poids.
Thank you, Smile.
Énormément de muscles. J'ai musclé.
Can you please, mute
There is
your
no way
mic?
for you to
I
mute
don't know.
people?
Yeah, but I don't know the
L'idée, c'est
one
de reprendre un peu du muscle, reprendre du muscle des
who
bras,
is talking.
Speaking.
C'est normal.
اسماعيل
هاد الخلية ديال لو muscle cœur de poids.
Ismail, mic is open. Okay.
You are making a lot of
Okay, there we go.
noise.
So, Mohammed, thank you for your question. There is no standard. So what you do, and again, that conversation you can openly have with investors, and I'm happy also to introduce you and talk offline about valuation. But basically, the bottom line, the standard is obviously, and a lot of it is going to be variable, is where do you see the business in 10, 15 years, what's the revenue, and then you move backward and you see this is what the valuation will be at the company at year so and so, and this is what we've achieved so far, and this is what we estimate our valuation to be. So it's a moving target. And again, no investor is gonna expect you. I mean, no investor that I know expects an answer exactly of what the valuation is good today. It's always a negotiable thing, right? And then, as you said, depending on where your investors are, and I'm bullish about today. The world is global, and then you're going to be dealing and talking to investors all over the world. Everything that has to do with convertible notes, safes, there is a lot of opinions on it. And
Yeah.
the most important thing for you is find an investor that's like-minded and likes where you're going. For me, that's more complicated than once you have someone that you're getting along with, that knows where you're going, then you can always agree on the terms and the valuation.
Okay.
But again, happy to connect offline and
Yeah, I
get
did
more
send you
information.
an invitation. I really appreciate it. I think that really summers a lot of the things that you said. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
very welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. So we'll take Sami. You are here. We lost you.
Yeah, Sami.
Okay, so can you
Yeah,
hear me
yeah.
clearly right
Yeah,
now?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
because
We
I
can hear
didn't
you now.
understand what happened exactly. So okay, I will try to
Okay.
be as quick as possible. So
Okay.
the first question, you can hear me clearly now.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Yes,
Go ahead.
yes.
Okay. So is this program relevant for agencies like mine or only startups?
Mhm.
Or additionally, I'm hesitant about dealing with investors due to concerns about control or potential risks in the future because I have an AI SaaS vision.
Mhm.
So because I want to develop my current custom AI solutions in the future into SaaS products.
Mhm.
So what advice will you give me to, will you give
We lost, but I
We lost
think,
Sami again, but I think
yeah,
we got
but
the
I think,
question.
yeah, we got the question, yeah. About the program, it's open to anyone who is interested in entrepreneurship and having either an idea or a startup. So everyone can take part of this program and benefit from the opportunities it opens. Please, Hatim.
Yeah, so to answer your question, and it's a very easy answer. So Sami, what you're doing from what you said for the 5 seconds sounds super interesting, obviously. And as far as I'm concerned, it could be a SaaS solution service that you give to startups to really identify. You have a lot of potential in startups trying to modelize and understand if their AI solution could work for a certain space, or you can turn it into a startup. And so it could be like just a consulting service, right? That you give to,
yeah.
or you can turn it into a startup and be able to scale and say, hey, it's a platform where, entrepreneurs and startups can come and evaluate. So the two options would work.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
okay, that's
You're welcome.
great. أيوب الكرد.
السلام عليكم.
عليكم السلام.
عليكم السلام.
سي حاتم كنشكرك بزاف على ليزانفورماسيون ديالك. سيتي ان اون بليزير. بون لا كيسيون كتسمعني مزيان ياك؟
Yeah,
ولا دابا
go to the question.
ندوي بالعربيه ماشي مشكل.
لا ماشي
اللي
مشكلة،
بغيتي.
غير الزربة عطينا المختصر المفيد.
الوغ دابا كيفاش كتكون الايفالويشن ديال ستارت اب؟ سيبوزون انت عندك ان برودوي فيرست ام في بي، اخذتي به المارشي، عطاك واحد شويه ريزولتس، عطاك واحد شويه ديال الامل في لي كونسوماتور انهم زعما ياخذوا يوبتي بور سوليوشن ديالك، ولكن هذاك انت مازال ما بعتيش بزاف فيه، ولا حتى البيزنس موديل ديالك مازال ني با ماشي ما كامل، ماشي باسكو سا شونج افيك لو طون، ولكن بوغ ان ديبي كيفاش تقنع عندك واحد البروبوزيسيون دو فالور وعندك تحت قدام داك الانفستيسور، كيفاش غادي شنو خصو يشوف باش يتقنع بديك البروبوزيسيون دو فالور؟
تري فاسيل. شوف
ذات كلير.
بحال اللي قلت قبيله، دابور سي با ماشي شي، ما غادي تكونش عندك واحد لافالياسيون بريسيز راه هي هذه الحاجه الاولى. الحاجه الثانيه، انت شنو تتبيع؟ انت تتبيع بحال شي حلم ولا شي اون امبيسيون، وخصك ان بلان ديكزيكسيون. غتقول له ها شنو غندير وها شنو غندير وها شنو غندير، وإلا درت هذا الشيء كلشي ولا كان عندي الفلوس باش ها لو مارشي كو جو في بوفوار توشي. دابا اليوم j'ai un peu de traction parce que je sais que le produit راه الناس باغيينه في هذا الشيء وها كي غادي ندير باش الا كانوا عندي الامكانيات كومون جو بو سكيلي هاد لا سوليسيون باش نطلع ناخذ الا خديت هذا لو مارشي الا هذا الشيء اللي غادي اللي تنامن به واللي غادي نقول بانه غادي يمكن لي نوصل لهم دابا 5 سنين
وي
et voilà le revenu que je pense avoir. Et
Voilà.
donc, le revenu me permet de dire que la valuation de la compagnie, هي هذه parce que j'ai des comparables aussi. حيت كاين شي شركات اللي عندهم اللي تبعوا هذا لو بروسيسوس وها لا فالواسيون اللي كاتم دابا. دونك هذا الشيء كله بيان سور سي تhéorique parce que راه il y a beaucoup de variables اللي خصهم دونك مي دو توت فاسون ملي تهضر مع ان انفستيسور راه حتى واحد ما غادي يقول لك انا بغيت انا نكون عارف زعما 100% بالتاكيد بانك غتكون هنايا وهذا الشيء اللي باسكو دو توت فاسون راه تو سا راه سي ان ريسك كون
وي
كان داك الشيء مضمون راه تشوغي با
وي
بزون انفستيغ راه الناس يجيو يتكبوا عندك باش يعطوك الفلوس هما
Exactement.
خصهم غير تكون عندهم لا كونفيكسيون
لا فيزيون
بانه لو برودوي est unique وانت aujourd'hui tu dois pouvoir le prouver هي الاولى وثانيا لا كونفيكسيون كنت هاد لو بلان ديكزيكسيون اللي تتقول لهم غادي دير بهاد الفلوس اللي يعطيوك يكونوا
Il doit
convaincus
être clair.
بانه راك tu peux le faire parce que tu as la bonne équipe, tu as la bonne traction et des choses comme ça.
Oui,
وي
exactement. Merci beaucoup. غناخدو just three more questions. ريان من بعد
Donc
منهم
هذا
ناخدو
راه غدا
أيوب.
والعشاء وديسير لميا
آه،
باسكو
لا،
راه 10 minutes.
Salam alaikum, Hatim.
عليكم
Merci
السلام.
beaucoup pour ce talk qui était très intéressant. Je m'appelle Ryan, donc j'ai créé
très bien.
l'Autorium,
Mhm, mhm,
which is a deep tech. We are creating a 3D shopping mall. We have already raised 50K euro in grant, and we have a product on the market, and we are now scaling with 10 clients in 4 countries. We are doing 1,000 MRR. And I want to know which is the best strategy to develop my software in United States, and maybe you can help me to do it.
ok.
Avec plaisir,
Thank you.
Seren. If there is any way I can help, I'm happy to help. So happy to talk of like. So sometimes when you're successful, like you are, so you're relatively successful because you're showing that you have traction. That there is, it's as risky as a business who doesn't have anything. Why? Because entire your problem, Ryan, is going to be how you can prove to an investor that you have the right scale up plan, how you can scale, because a lot of companies do have great product and they get burned because they're not scaling. So there's a lot of options. So you can go after a big raise, and there we go through that problematic that I told you before. When you're in front of the investors, right, they know you have a great product. If you have that traction, if you already have clients in 4 countries, they know but the problem that you have, which is a good problem to have, is does Ryan have the right people around him to scale the solution, right? The
Okay.
people who have that experience. So once they have that conviction, and if you can show, the forecast, they're gonna basically put money into you. And again, we can speak about this offline.
Yeah.
There's a very, very famous saying. The first person I heard say it, it's a little side note, is Hassan Tani Allah yarhamu, when
Mhm,
they asked him, he was at a meeting in France, and they say, are you coming here to buy arms? To
mhm.
buy, meaning, you need funding. And he says, I came to get advice
Yeah.
because arms you can find anywhere.
Yeah.
This is true for money too.
Yeah.
Money you can find anywhere, but good advice
Yeah.
is more difficult to get
Yeah.
than that.
This is why we are very, very honored, very delighted, and really appreciate your patience in this session, giving advices to our
But
audience.
Lamia, what you're doing is amazing.
Thank you.
Because I'm serious. Wallah, you know what you need. Again, I tell you, Morocco has great potential.
Yeah.
Well, it's very hard to take that potential and convert it into, and that's what. and you need a critical mass. So we need, if as far as I'm concerned, we need like 10 startup universe programs to be able to get to what we
cover,
want to get.
yeah, exactly. Ayub, please, very
Thank you,
quickly.
Hatim, for your advice. Thank you.
You're very welcome, Ryan. And
Yeah.
I, by the way, for everyone, I put my LinkedIn on the chat.
Yeah.
So
Ayub?
feel free to link it.
Ayub, very quickly, and then we'll finish with Zakaria. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I will go straight to the point. Thank you, Mr. Hatim, for everything. Basically, now I'm working on a food solution for food market. Basically, it will be profitable from restaurants, bakeries, retail shops, and so on. It helps them basically to reduce the food waste by selling their product that might expire by end of the day or end of the week, something like that, to clients, and by suggesting some kind of reduced price. And so the thing is, now I'm living in Luxembourg, and there are so many programs and many competitions that can help a startup raise earlier money. But since basically my startup will operate in potentially in Morocco first, how can we attract foreign investors? Because I know that foreign investors, it will be difficult for them to invest in a 100% pure Moroccan startup, since they don't know the legal stuff and so on.
Yeah.
Okay, very quickly, you.
Yeah.
We talked about it earlier. Why you're in Luxembourg? Why do you wanna? Why aren't you testing your solution? You know, because your solution is agnostic of geography. Why would you? And you're in Luxembourg. Why would you do it in Morocco? If you want to do it in Morocco because you have access to strategics that can basically give you that traction, which makes a lot of sense, then you should do it, but you should always position your company as a global company and say, if you go to an investor, a food waste solution for restaurants, that's an amazing, by the way, there's a lot of companies that do that, but that's not a problem, right? I mean, you have to show what makes yours unique and how you can scale fast. But of course, an investor is going to go and invest if it's something that you use globally. Not if you tell him I'm going to do it in Morocco, but if you tell him I'm doing it globally. But I have data points in Morocco because I have a few restaurants that I'm doing it. Because once you show the process and why you can scale, because you have, data, that shows you it's working in Morocco, that data can help you with investors anywhere in the world. But when you're presenting it anywhere, it's a global solution. It's a solution that you can sell everywhere. So the investor is going to invest for that. If on the other hand, you tell investors, I'm in Morocco and I'm doing it for the Moroccan market, they're going to do the math. There's so many restaurants, there's so many, push comes to shove, if you capture 90% or 100% of the market, it's going to be only so much. And it's not a good investment. On the other hand, if you say it's a global solution, but I'm actually right now, my solution is advanced enough that I'm getting data in Morocco where I have pilots or paid customers, then that's very appealing.
Yeah.
But in your presentation, you have to show who are you going to partner with in these other countries to give them confidence that you can scale fast. And again, Ayub, happy to speak offline.
Yeah.
Perfect.
The last question, Zakaria, please. And for your information, we will have another session dedicated only for questions with for investments, about investments, and we will share with you the WhatsApp link, so then you can share your questions, and we'll share them with our upcoming speakers. So, Zakaria, the last question.
Hello, and thank you for this initiative. So I'm an mechanical and industrial engineer, and I'm working on a solution for the manufacturing of orthosis and prosthesis. So, and I'm currently advancing in the manufacturing area, but I have the software development area to digitalize the process of the diagnosis
Okay, the question.
of patients. So I need to know how I can find the right people to join my team, and how can I work with hospitals and with the healthcare institutions to, because I'm a mechanical engineer, so I don't have all the healthcare background to certify
Yeah,
and
that's great.
this is
Say
my
So
goal.
Hatim.
yeah, thank you for the question. So it's very simple. If you are convinced that you have something unique, yeah, something that's very unique in the medical engineering space that allows you to bypass fast track, anything like that, because the first people you have to convince is a co-founder. And say, yeah, you're telling me obviously you're an engineer. There's tons of people in Morocco that are bright. We have probably some of the best doctors, in terms of creativity. You have to go convince, and this is good for your business because it's going to convince you also that it's a startup that's worth creating. Is going and sitting with people who are in your space, who are your counterpart in the medical space, that have that problematic and can see that, to whom you can explain that your engineering concept or the way you do things is going to work. The more people you convince, the more the idea makes sense. And the more you convince people in the clinical space, the more it makes sense. So what you're doing is two things at the same time. You're finding a co-founder, which you need, who's in that space. And it helps you also build the story of why this is unique. At the end of the day, I'll tell you, all this sounds great. Well, like in the question to ask you, or you need to ask a co-founder who's in that space, is what is currently in the market? Why are you so much better than what's in the market? Why is your technology? And again, it doesn't mean that you have had developed all you do, but you have to have at least good understanding of why your concept or your technology changes the paradigm in the prosthesis and how it's made. Once you're convinced and you convince a co-founder, then you are in good. Then you can go to maybe an early investor because you say, hey, the investor needs to know that the medical community, some people who are in that space, who work in that space, are convinced that what you're doing makes sense. So it's one step at a time. So you're telling me you're not in the space, and and those things cost nothing. Those things you go to any medical school in Morocco, UM6P. They have there's I think a venture studio within, I believe, University Mohammed Sisi in Casablanca in the health sciences. There's so many now people that you can speak to and go and pitch your idea, pitch your and see how it is received. And when you're talking to people, you're gonna find someone who's gonna be, oh my God, I love this. And my what I do for a living is prosthesis. I know exactly what needs to be done. I know the competitors. I know what I'm getting. So it helps you build the idea to start up, and it gets people involved in your company in that space.
Yeah.
And again, to what I was saying earlier, very quickly, sorry, Lamia. There's something that costs you no money, is when you find the right advisory team and the right co-founders and everything, you're paying them with shares. You're paying them, and you earn two things. First of all, you don't have cash, so you can't pay them. وثانيا, you have people involved in the company that's going to add value to the company.
Yeah.
It's this whole concept of, don't try to say, I want to keep 100% of the company for the next 5 or 6 years or 10 years. Because like we said earlier, 100% of zero is zero. 50, 60, 70% of something that has value. Every time you have an advisor, you have a professor that's in your advisory board, and you give him 2% or 3%, your company has more value than it had before you had that person on board.
Thank you very much, Hatim. Sorry for the others. We will have other sessions for questions about investment. Thank you, all of you, for such nourishing discussion. A big thank you to you, Hatim, for sharing this width of insights and
Thank you, Lamia.
strategies with that. I'm sure everyone is living today with practical takeaways for their entrepreneurial journey.
You know,
So
Khalid Zouani has his hand up. I don't know if you forgot it on, or like he has a question and we forgot to get to him.
yeah, the time سي حسيم أنا على الوقت for you.
Khalid, you can reach out to me anyone.
Okay. So اسمح لينا سي خالد, next time we'll have other sessions for questions about investment. So stay tuned for the next session on Saturday about empowering the next generation and how to build a thriving entrepreneurial ecosystem. As we close, remember that the journey of entrepreneurship is exciting, but it's challenging at the same time. So keep exploring, keep learning, and never stop following your dreams. As we learned from Hasim, best of luck on your entrepreneurial journey, and see you on Saturday. Thank you very much, Si
Inshallah.
Hasim.
See
Thank you
Khalid,
for all of
please
you.
send me a connection and then we can talk. My LinkedIn is
We didn't hear you.
La, you're on mute. You're on mute.
I have my phone number in the chat. You can like have it in the chat and send me a message via WhatsApp, and I will answer your question. Okay. I don't know. I don't know if he can unmute the. No.
We didn't
No,
hear
he
you,
can't unmute
Khalid.
himself.
You are
You're
muted,
muted.
Khalid. Khalid,
I
you
don't
are
know,
muted.
Lumna, if you can like unmute him from
Okay,
your
sorry.
side.
Yeah. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you very much. First of all, I would like just to thank, because I know the time is over. I'd like to thank Mr. Hatim and Lahiba for your effort. Yeah, I have this number, I think from Nabil Shakir. That's right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I will send a message to Nabil, and Mr. Nabil will forward it to Mr. Hatim. That's right?
Mm-hmm.
You can
Perfect.
you can send me the question you have, and I will share it with Hatim.
See Khalid, are you on LinkedIn also?
I am
on LinkedIn, la
You
plateforme
can,
LinkedIn.
Yes, I do have.
You can
Yes.
send directly
Do you have LinkedIn,
questions,
Mr.
Hatim.
Hatim? Do you have LinkedIn?
Yeah, I put it on the chat, Raif chat. ولكن
Okay.
But I'll also find you on LinkedIn.
Yes, okay. So the co-founder, we are three, and the co-founder now, who is the main, I see, is my brother, is a professor from Qadi Iyad, IT professor, ex-engineer and PhD. So I will send you both of us, me and my
Sounds
brother.
good.
Okay?
Okay,
Sounds
that's good.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank
And have
you
a
very
good
much.
time.
See
Thank you,
you
Lamia.
next time.
Weekend.
Goodbye.
See
Thank
you
you very
later.
much,
See you
Hatim.
later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank
A
you.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Hello, Lamia.
Yes.
Can I talk to you after the session, please?
Yeah,
If it's
yeah,
convenient.
sure. Yeah, okay.
Okay. I just want it like to be private if it's convenient. تمشي والناس if it's convenient.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so send me your number, like, and I call you.
Okay, I'm gonna send it to you. Sure. Then I will send it straight away to you. Here you go. رسفته directly. ما عرفش واش وصلك.
أيه perfect. So thank you all of you, and see you on Saturday in the next session. Keep in touch through WhatsApp. I will send you tomorrow, inshallah, the document with all the details about how you can benefit from Startup University Morocco. Good evening.
Hi, Lemmy. Do you hear me?
Hi. Yeah, I hear you, Ayub.
I just want to say that I'm not part of the WhatsApp group.
Yeah, I didn't send it yet. The document I send it tomorrow. So you can find the link to WhatsApp group and other details about the program.
So you will share an email, I think.
Yeah,
right?
by email. Yeah, tomorrow. Yeah,
Yeah. Thank you, Lemia.
yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks a lot.